Top 5 eyeshadow palette color stories that launched in 2024. I did a video halfway through the year in about June, July, where I talked about all the launches up until a certain point midway through the year. So these top 5 palettes are palettes that launched after that point where I cut them off. Some of these did launch kind of like right around where I cut them off. So if you're seeing them in this ranking, it's because I didn't include them in the previous ranking, and I do also have an honorable mention. Now this was extra difficult because I did already do a video talking about the top 10 palettes of 2024. So you're gonna see a lot of repeats from the top 5 from there. Obviously, I like what I like. I really felt like my top 5 favorite eyeshadow palettes also had some of the strongest color stories. For this ranking, I am strictly speaking on cohesiveness of color story, how unique it is. I'm not taking into account quality. And of course, this is my opinion and it's very much based on the kind of color stories that I like and the level of uniqueness that I like. So in 5th place is the Beaute Bar Vamp palette. I love this palette so much. This is a really well done red and black color story. We've seen a lot of takes on a red and black and gray color stories, especially in 2024. I feel like that theme was very much trending. So I feel like this had a little bit of an extra to make it a bit more versatile and offer a larger variety of looks versus more monochromatic grayish red black looks. I love the purple in here. I also love that there is a blue, and I also think it's great that we have this burgundy, and I feel like because of that it really helps to bridge this color story so much. And of course the shimmer shades are beautiful. I love that there's a balance of topper shadows, more opaque shadows, and some very unique multi-chromes as well. And I like that there's a mid-tone gray as well as this more almost like a very pale bluish gray. I think it's a unique tone in here, and it's not just like a variety of grays, and the shimmers just play off of and match the mattes in here really well. So that's why this one is definitely like a standout. In 4th place is the Gargoyle palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. Now I almost put in the Cool Trolls palette from Cosmic Brushes. I haven't tried that palette out yet, but I definitely very much vividly remember when they revealed the color story and how much I liked it. I feel like almost in a sense that color story is a bit similar to this Gargoyle color story. There's some key differences, but there's a couple of shades in that one that are a little bit redundant. And I think overall this one has some more interesting choices in here that makes it a lot more versatile than the Cool Trolls palette. So specifically speaking on Grim Morning, I feel like this shade being in here as well as Midnight just add like a pop to this color story that's a little bit unexpected, and I really just love this sagey light pale almost pastel shade in here. And the shimmers pair really nicely with all the different mattes, so it's kind of like Eerie Echoes goes with Grim Morning, Dismal Sky and Night Watcher go with Midnight and Darkest Hour, Mystic Stone goes with Sinister Figure, Menacing goes with Sinister Figure, Guardian could really kind of sway either way, but especially like these 4, like you could totally use these 4 shades or like all the way across here. I like the ratio of the shimmers and mattes, and I also like the ratio of the light, medium, dark mattes as well as the shimmers. There's topper like shades, there's some more opaque shades, there's some shifty multi-chromes, etc. Literally a very thought out color story, and I feel like every time I open this one I just feel so inspired by it, which is all of these palettes really truly. And then in 3rd place is another like cooler toned color story, and this one is the Longing palette from Blend Bunny. And this one I love the way that the mattes are set up. Lightest to darkest, we have a variety of different tones. I do feel like this one's maybe kind of slightly in the same vein as the Gargoyle palette because of these tones. They're very grungy, and you can create looks by column or you can dip in between. And I like that there is actually less shimmers in this palette, and I like that there's less shimmers in here. My only criticism of this overall color story is that Remember and All That's Left are very similar. One's on the lid, one's swatched out. Remember is a little bit more silvery, but they're very similar otherwise. But I do really love the duochrome shifty shades down here. Especially, I think this is a great shimmer to have in here because it kind of will bridge between a couple of the different shades in here. Some of the shimmers are more opaque, and then the 2 shimmer shadows up here are more topper-like. If you watched my top 10 eyeshadow palettes of 2024 video, you probably already know number 2 and number 1. And they're slightly switched though for this video, and I will explain why. So in 2nd place is the Poison Garden palette from Beaute Bar. This is my number 1 palette of 2024, and I stand by that. The reason this one is 2nd and the other palette is 1st in this video is because I think we have mostly mid-tone mattes in this one, and there is a pop of color this one and this one, but I feel like I kind of prefer the pop of color in number 1 place. I think this palette will give you you a variety of different looks. Angel's Trumpet is a little bit more on the sheer side. I kind of wish there was an iridescent in here. First and second place are really just neck and neck, and I just had to be like really nitpicky. In first place, I'm putting the Harvest of Souls palette from Fantasy Cosmetica. This was my number 2 palette of the year 2024, and the reason I'm putting this one into first place, and again I had to be really nitpicky here, I think this color story is like just ever so slightly more cohesive while still being really interesting. And I think that the shades in here particularly that do that for me is Poison and Sacrifice. I do really love the balance in here of the lighter, almost pastel pop to some more grungy tones that are still kind of almost pastel to the mid-tones, and the dark shades and the shimmer shadows offer a variety of being topper-like, being a little bit more opaque, and packing a little bit more of a punch in terms of colorfulness, such as Ensnare and Eternal is such an interesting tone. And especially for a shimmer shadow, I think it just complements this palette really nicely. And then there is a black base holographic multi-chrome down here. So this one won by just a hair. And the honorable mention palette is the Unearthly Cosmetics Not Normal palette. And the reason this one is an honorable mention is because this color story technically has already come out. So this is kind of like an addition to it, and it is like a remastered version. Nevertheless, I love this color story. I talked about how much I love this color story. I think all the different tones in here are like almost a little bit unconventional, but super fun. Every time I look at this palette, I feel so inspired by it. It has a really great balance of all the shimmers, and then again the mattes, and whether there's like topper like shades, also like mid-tone dark light shades. And I just think this color story is very unique. I can't think of any palette that has had anything similar to this color story. So those are the top 5 eyeshadow palette color stories for the rest of 2024. Let me know in the comments below if you were surprised by any of them. What is your favorite color story that launched in 2024? I would love to hear that. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.